Hello, my name is Rick Larson. I'm with Larson Cable Trailers. This is a piece of equipment I developed for my crews several years ago. I'm going to walk you through the steps here right now as we set this thing up for blowing some fiber optic cable. I'll show you step by step the process it takes to go through this. First thing we're going to do is pull the receiver hitch out so we can get our distance from our reel of cable. We get this set out here. Reason being, we wanted to get as far away from our reel of cable as we can so we got some slack in between our blower and our tires and our actual reel. Okay, now we're going to get the flex pole and attach to the receiver hitch. You will notice the catch so that the receiver hitch does not let go of this when we're bouncing down the road. We'll lock this into position so when we set the figure 8 device on, we will be able to not have to chase it around. I'm going to adjust this now so that we have it in the position we need when we get ready to blow. This pole is completely flexible in several, I think six different positions, and with the fiber blowing process, it helps give us a lot more options depending on the direction that we're having to blow our cable. Once we get this adjusted the right angle for our figure 8 device, now we're going to go grab that and assemble it up on top of this. Now we come in here, we've got this latched on the front of our trailer with another one of these spring locks. And we bring this in, set it on the tube, lock it into place. Here we're going to unlock the valve control panel, swing it to the rear so that we can have our controls we can lock this into position here. We've got our control panel back here where we can see everything that's going on from the back of the reel to the blower. We're right on top of it. Now we're going to get into the fiber blower box. If you'll notice the way we've got this laid out in here, we've got this box set up so that all of our little tools and stuff have their place in here so we don't lose them. We'll remove the hose. There we are. Set that off to the side. Going to grab our valve control panel. Notice the hole here and the hole in the tray. You'll notice this groove here also. This will slide underneath of the top of the tray. We'll slide this on, line this hole up, put this pin in, and our valve control panel is all fastened together. Now that we've got the valve put in place, we're going to grab the fiber optic blower block out of the trailer, or out of the box. And we're going to mount this in here and slide this into the receiver tube. Set this up here so that we've got this as close as we can get it to the tires so that our cable doesn't get a chance to flex before it gets into the blower. We'll tighten this bolt up here, and we can adjust this with these wing nuts here to get this centered. Once we get that centered, then we've got that lined up for our cable to come into place. Okay, here we're going to fasten our hose on. Put this in here. Now we're going to come around to the bottom of our blower. Tie that into place. Get our air hose. Now let's shut this. We get the air hose out of the air compressor, hook it up on this end, Take the other end, hook onto our valve control panel. Tie this on here. Get our safety clip in here so our hose does not come untied. Now, today we're going to be working with 1 1/4 inner duct. So we get out our 1 1/4 duct pack. This is going to be the seals and the grips that we use inside the blower block to hold the 1 1/4 duct into place and seal it up from the air. So now we're going to open the air blower. Going to get it ready for the seals. When we get the grips, we're going to put them in here and the seal kit in here for the 1 1/4 duct. When we get into this box, this duct pack will consist of your missile for blowing the fiber in the 1 1/4 duct. It'll come with a seal kit for the duct and a clamp. This will hold the inner duct into place. If you'll notice the grooves in the blower block here and this ridge here, we will put this in, line up the screw hole in there, the other one opposite in here. Then we will get the screws to hold this into place. These will come in your fiber blowing kit. We get our screw set in here to hold it into place. Get that held in here with our Allen wrench. Make sure that the grips of the clamp are to prevent the pipe from sliding out this way. Okay, the screw that goes in the top one. Get that lined up. You notice it's flush on either side of the clamp. We put our screw in here. Then we can come in and tighten this up. Now we will grab our seal kit. Again, you will see the groove or the ridge on this piece and the groove in this piece. Our goal here is to line up these seals. We get this apart. You'll notice the ridge on this piece and the groove in here. You line them up, you can't get it wrong. Same screws. Now we're going to hold the seal kit into place. Get her nice and tight. Now we line the ones up in the top of the block. Here again, same thing as the bottom. We got the ridge and the groove. Put this into place. Bring her down in, line up our screw hole. The seals have a tendency to hold it up. You got to squeeze them in there pretty good and snug up that screw real good. Although it takes a little time, now that we've got this set up for 1 1/4 duct, we don't have to change this again for the duct until we switch duct sizes. We go to an 1 1/2 or a 2-inch duct, then we need to replace these again. But this step here is something we only need to do the first time we get set up for that size duct. Now we have our duct pack in place. Now we have to connect our inner duct down here in the hole so we can get that tied to the pipe we're going to blow fiber into. Now we're going to come over here and open the lid to the duct that we're going to blow fiber into. Okay. We've got our lid hook that we've developed for this. Help us with our backs. Now we're getting ready to trim the duct here and get this speedball coupler put on. This speedball coupler that I developed is a little longer than the other ones we have out there. Instead of just the grips, what I've done here is put a right-hand thread in one end, a left-hand thread in the other. When I get this on the duct, we get the seal, we'll get this clamped together, get this started, give this thing a 1/4 or a 1/2 a turn, and what we do is we pull the two faces of the inner duct tight together, helping us stop the air leaks that we would otherwise have in this inner duct. What we're going to do now is we're going to trim the end of this duct so we've got a nice flush cut. Okay, we're going to come in here now, trim this end of the duct nice and flush so we got a 90-degree cut and a nice flat flange there. Now that we've got these cut flush, we're going to put the rubber seal on. We're going to put it halfway on this duct here so we know we've got it positioned where we want it. And we're going to tape this into place so it doesn't move on us when we put the other one on. Now that we've got the seal in place, we're going to place this duct inside there. Now that we've got the tubes in place, we're going to put the speedball coupler on. Now that we've got that on and it's snugged up a little bit, we're going to give it a 1/4 of a turn clockwise. What this does for us is it pulls these two pieces of pipe together nice and tight with that right and left hand thread. Now finish tightening it up the rest of the way. Putting this on by hand is all the tighter it needs to be. If we use a wrench on this, we just end up breaking the clamp. Now that we've got our inner duct on that side of the clamp, we come up here and we place it in the blower block. Notice that when we put this in the blower block, it's right up here with the seals touching the end and right up against the flange in the seal kit. We'll take our clamp, put it into position, and hold the inner duct in place. The question is often, how tight does this go? If you'll notice, the gap between the clamp right down here is what we look for. Once we get them down close to each other, that's as tight as it needs to be. These are stainless steel bolts. We do not want to use an impact on here. It will stretch the threads on the bolt and it'll ruin them. This is a very expensive bolt going in here. That's why we use this T-handle from the box that the blower came in and tighten with that only. Here we have our auto luber. We got a 5-gallon bucket of blowing lubricant. Remember, silicone-based blowing lubricant. We're going to take the lid off of this and we're going to place this pump down in the lube. And set our box. Drop the lid down so our screws will get underneath the main part of the lid. Get this tied into place. This does not seal, so do not tip this bucket on its side or you will have lube everywhere. Now we're going to slide this down to the bottom. Got that to the bottom. Now we're going to adjust these screws here on the side to hold the pump into place. Now that we have the auto luber set up, we'll bring this closer to our blower. That's what this tail is for. This quick coupler seals that up so the lube can't come out. When we want to put lube in here, when we're proofing our duct, we'll stick this piece of hose on here so we can place it down inside of the duct, try to keep our lube away from the blower block. Now we can pump the lube in there. Depending on how much we need for the distance we're going, the rule of thumb is 32 ounces for 2,500 to 3,000 feet is what we usually use on 1¼ inch duct. Now that we've got the lube in the duct, we're going to get ready to proof it. We need the hockey puck and a sponge, always in the box with our other tools. The hockey puck's usually in this plastic bag with your wrench and your screws and your carabiner in here. So we're going to put our sponge inside of our duct. Our hockey puck has a tendency to be a little loose in here. What we do there is we adjust the size of the hockey puck because they all vary. We'll make it seal in there just a little better with a couple wraps of tape. That will do a much better job of sealing the air in the block when we get ready to blow the sponge down line. Now we're going to close the block and get ready for the air. Remember when we was talking about these stainless steel bolts, we've got a sticker here that says hand tighten and then just a little 1/4 inch torque. So again, using our T-handle out of our box, just hand tight. Now we're going to fire up our air compressor. What we're going to do now is I'm going to put 50 pounds of air pressure behind that sponge. I'm going to time it for the distance we're going. 5,000 feet, the sponge should come out the other end in 1 minute to 1 minute and 15 seconds if our run is in good shape and there's no water or anything in the duct. Timing the sponge helps me understand whether or not I've got a leaky coupling. It shows me whether or not I've got too much water. Obviously, we'll learn that at the other end when it comes out. If it does, what we'll do again is run another sponge through until we get it so it will come out in 1 minute to 1 minute and 15 seconds per 5,000 feet. The other issue we run into here is when I hold it at 50 and I let go, and all of a sudden I see this climbing from 50 up a little higher, that tells me right here we've got something in there causing resistance. Generally it's water, sometimes mud, sometimes mice. We'll run this up here to 50. Now we've got our sponge through. Now we get ready to place the fiber in the duct. Now we need to determine which cable pack we need for this cable. The most common answer when we ask what size cable they have, they tell us how many fibers are in the inside. That doesn't give us the answer we need for choosing our cable pack. We need to know the outside diameter of the cable, which varies depending on the sheath and the protection they've got on the cable. What I have here is a crescent wrench with millimeters on one side, inches and fractions on the other. That's close enough for what we need to determine. So what we'll do is we'll take this wrench, we'll use it as a caliper. We're going to be somewhere in the 13 to 14 millimeter. So we go to our cable packs, we find the cable pack. This one will be the one we use. It goes from 12.2 millimeter to 15.2 millimeter. In the cable pack, we have the Venturi that fits the seals. There's two different size seals in this cable pack because we're going from 12 to 15 millimeters. You'll notice the seals. We choose the seal that fits the cable the best, which in this case is the 12 to 14 millimeter. What we look for here is something that fits nice around the cable. We'll end up with two of these seals on here. You'll notice the seal seam here is on top. The seal on the other one is going to be on the bottom, so they're not in line with each other. Now that we've got our seals on the cable, now we will attach our Kellum grip. I put my Kellum grip on where it's right in between the metal grooves on my Kellum grip. And what I'm going to do there is tape this down so that when I push this in, I don't push the cable out the side here. I like putting a little tape at this end of the Kellum grip so that we're assured that it won't just slip off, especially when it's cold. Now we want to attach the missile to the front of the Kellum grip. Here is the missile we want to use here. This came with the duct pack. You'll notice these washers here is the wear point. It actually comes with a spare set when these get worn. And then in the blower box, in our little bag here that had our screws and tools, we'll find this carabiner. Now with the carabiner, this is how we tie the missile to the cable clamp. We've got these tied together now, so this will pull through. Another thing I like to do here is tie this down with my tape so that it doesn't rub on the edge of our 1¼ duct. Okay, now we have everything tied together for our blower. Now I'm going to take a little piece of this tape so that in pushing this down in the duct, I don't accidentally disconnect my missile. Now we open the air valve back up so that we can place our fiber optic cable into the inner duct. We open this back up, we remove our hockey puck. We'll put this back in the box so we don't lose it. Now we'll have Mike grab this hydraulic motor up here. We'll disconnect these hoses. It makes it easier to manage the motor rather than the hoses and the motor at the same time. Okay, now unlock the motor, turn it a quarter of a turn, and it'll slide right out of that splined coupler. Now that we got the motor off of the front reel turner rack, we're going to use it to power our figure 8 device. With our spline coupler here, we're going to line that up with these splines in here. Then we'll have our drive motor at the rear. There you go. Okay. You notice we swing this back over and we can lock this motor into this position here. Now with these quick couplers, male and female, we can't get these on wrong. They're different sizes so that they snap right back into place. Now that we've got these hoses connected and our motor's back tied to the figure 8 device, now we can use our hydraulic system to power our figure 8 device for feeding the cable into the duct that we're going to place or use the air to blow into the duct. Now is when we use the brake that we have on our drive axle up here. We no longer have the hydraulic motor back here, so these freewheel. When we get to blowing fiber optic cable or figure 8ing, this reel is going to be free spinning. When we need to stop, slow down, or whatever we need to do, that's when this brake here comes into play. We'll use this fine threaded adjustment to put some tension on this brake, and then what we'll do when we need to slow down is we'll place this reel turner rack up against the reel, stopping the backlash. Now that we've got this motor in place, our brake set, everything almost ready, we're going to start our engine. We do that down under here, we break the throttle just off the bottom, and we start the motor. Rev up the engine a little bit. Now that we've got the motor running, we're going to adjust this fiber optic blower. We've got these adjustments on the side of these wings. We'll use that to guide this cable directly into the center of our tire. Now that we've got this ready to go, we want to add a little bit more lube in front of our missile. Now we can put our missile inside of our duct. And we'll push it down line here a little ways. Now we have the venturi that fits the seals that came in the seal kit that we chose for this. They fit in here well. We'll take this and we'll place in this groove here this way. You notice this seal here lines up with everything. And you'll notice the front of this venturi has got 2 grooves in it. You can see these grooves. That goes towards the front. We'll set this in here. We'll set this one on the outside. Okay, now we have that in there, we will close the door, seal the air. Now that we have our air sealed up in there, we're getting ready to start the blowing process. I'm going to use this reel turner rack, and I'm going to park those tires that has the tension on that brake that I showed you a minute ago. I'm going to park them tires about 2 inches away from the edge of the reel. In the event we need to stop for any reason, then all I have to do is touch them tires against here and I've got my reel stopped. But we've got this fiber optic cable in here so that we don't smash it. We put 8 pounds of air pressure in these tires. That allows the tires to wrap around the cable without putting flat spots on it, and it gives us a little bit better traction also. So bring this down, snug her up. You'll see here we've got these 2 tires touching. So now all I have to do is power it with the motor and turn on my air, and we're blowing fiber. Now that we've got the tires in place, The first thing I'm going to do is give myself a little bit of air pressure. Not critical, but just get a little bit of air started in there. That'll straighten out my Kellum grip and my hose. Once I got a little air going there, now I can start my tires and gradually get my reel turning. You'll see this. We start our reel turning. Once we get her moving, we pick a nice speed. We get back. And then we finally get to the point where we've got all of our air on. Now we have the cable out the far end of the duct. We get the proper amount of cable out here to reach into the splicing van, and we can close this lid up and have it done. If you'll notice the placement of this duct, one of the most important things that we run into is have an extra inner duct left in the box. It leaves us a lot of options. One of our goals was to keep this as simple as we possibly could so that the newest operator we've got can be capable of operating that trailer. Simplicity is one of the key things out here in the field. That's it from beginning to end. Thanks for watching.